law has just passed, and this will likely be the last week for gambling. Legal gambling, anyway. How will anyone make a living? She sighed, snatched up an empty glass, and poured herself champagne from the bottle chilling in the ice bucket. I'll be forced to take the horses to Texas and Arizona, and those other places out there. Places she dismissed with a flick of her fingers and a shudder. She turned to her motley entourage, most of whom stood barely over 5 feet tall. Being jockeys, and not exotic entertainers from the Coney Island amusements a few blocks away. They crowded round the table. Waiters appeared immediately with trays of champagne. Bobby Mullins, Bev's stable manager, formerly her deceased husband's right-hand man, now Bev's, stepped forward. Stocky and medium height, Bobby was a former boxing champion, reformed denizen of the city's underworld, and unapologetic lover of chorus girls. He dragged his derby from his head, unleashing a mass of untamable orange-red hair that, Phil noticed, was now laced with silver. "To Ms. Reynolds!" he exclaimed, and lifted his glass. "To Ms. Reynolds," they all agreed, and drank her health. "To Holly Farm Stables," Bev returned, "and to all of you." They drank again. Glasses were hurriedly refilled. "To Devil's Delight!" yelled one of the crowd. "Devil's Delight! And Johnny D!" The little man, who still sat astride a set of brawnier shoulders than his, bowed to his fellow revelers and waved to the other astonished diners. "And to Madame Jora!" Johnny added. "Madame Jora!" they chanted. "Okay, you lot," Bobby said. "Off you go. They've got a fine dinner waiting over at the Pabst for you. Curfew is extended until midnight, but don't forget, there's another big race tomorrow." With a final cheer, they emptied their glasses and took themselves off, noisier, if possible, than when they entered. The restaurant sighed into quiet conversation. "Sit down, Bobby, and have some more champagne," Bev said. Bobby chewed the inside of his cheek, looking like he wished he could join his men in a boisterous dinner and evening on the town, but he sat. "Congratulations," Phil said, rousing some enthusiasm. "Devil's Delight was certainly a delight today. And Juan," the Johnny they'd just been toasting, "wrote him perfectly. Kudos to you all. But who on earth is Madame Jora?" Bobby scratched his head, unleashing even more unruly wires of hair. "She has a place over at Steeplechase Park. The boys go to her to have their fortunes told. You know, predict how they'll do in the coming races, if they're gonna be rich or find themselves a wife." "Really?" Phil asked. "What happens if she predicts a loss?" "God, Yourness." After a year of knowing her, Bobby still had never figured out exactly how to address her, and she was too entertained by his attempts to correct him. "She don't never give them a bad fortune. She tells them they're gonna win, make lots of money, and marry a beautiful wife. In return, I drop her the occasional betting tip. Everybody's happy." Phil laughed. "Well, in that case—" A bellboy paused at their table. "Telephone call for Lady Dunbridge." A ripple of excitement coursed through Phil that had nothing to do with winning horses. At last. "I'm Lady Dunbridge." Dowager, if Phil was truthful, but she saw no reason to announce it, ever. It wasn't her fault that the Earl had dropped dead shortly after her 26th birthday. Bev frowned. "I hope it isn't bad news." Oh. Phil hadn't thought of that. Creswick and Lily? She'd left them both in the city to have a few days off. What if something had happened to one of them? They might be servants, but she didn't know what she would do without them. And here she'd been selfishly hoping for a murder. "Surely not. Excuse me." She hurried after the bellboy. She returned a few minutes later, not grieving, thank heaven, and not excited, but perplexed. She sat down and reached for her champagne. "Who was it?" demanded Bev. Bobby's eyebrows made question marks over his eyes. "It was Godfrey Bennington." "Godfrey Bennington? The aeroplane?"